This is no ordinary trip for John Cutfeet.
We're leaving from Sulakad, and then we'll go up to KI. It's 269 miles.
He's a member of Big Trout Lake First Nation, or KI for short, a community of about 1,000 people, 580 kilometers north of Thunder Bay.
And we'll go to the community hall, and then we'll do the Wataynikaneyap presentation.
Today he's on his way up to meet with members of his community to talk about a power project that has the potential to revitalize 16 remote First Nations communities in northwestern Ontario.
This is a project that's owned by 20 First Nations who have gotten together to say we want to develop this transmission line and to be able to be eventual owners of the transmission line. So we're looking at trying to connect the 16 remote communities who are currently on diesel onto the provincial power grid. Right now, communities are at capacity and they're unable to build any more houses, do any infrastructure, and so that's what we're trying to change.
It's clear this is no ordinary power project. For the first time in Ontario, First Nations communities are in the driver's seat. They are majority owners of the project and have partnered with experienced industry leaders.
This is precedent setting in Canada.
Jerry Vananetti is with Renewable Energy Systems Canada, who've partnered with Fortis Ontario and the 20 First Nations communities to form the licensed transmission company called Wataynikaneyap Power.
First Nations have responsibilities for their land and they want to take responsibility for their economic future. And they've created a partnership here, and we've joined their partnership to help them realize their dream of economic self-determination.
The roots of this power project really began with First Nations around 2008, 2009.
Scott Hawkes is president of Wataynikaneyap Power and VP of Corporate Services for Fortis Ontario.
This power project is unique, I would say, from the outset, in that it's been run by First Nations, for First Nations. They've been working and investing in this project up to this point, and they now need a transmitter to bring it to the finish line. And it's a true partnership.
Spearheading this initiative on behalf of the First Nations communities is Margaret Kennequanash.
Good morning, people.
Good morning, Margaret.
Chair of Wataynikaneyap Power.
I'm not aware of any major development or infrastructure development that's currently happening where 20 First Nations are in partnership and agreeing to work together on a development initiative like this. And we got to start moving together on these initiatives and working towards building that capacity and creating that hope for the future.
Hope on a massive scale that has the ability to define the very future of these communities.
It's a huge project. There's 1,800 kilometers of transmission lines that have to be built. It's a $1.3 billion project. It's a very large transmission project.
John Cutfeet regularly makes presentations on behalf of Wataynikaneyap Power to the different communities as part of an ongoing engagement process to get the community's feedback on where those transmission lines should go.
I'd like to say thank you for allowing us to come into your community. I just want to share a little bit about the project called Wataynikaneyap.
You know, not having a connection to the grid is something that I don't think people from Southern Ontario can relate to. Things like water quality, security of food supply, and the ability to have a home or build a new home are all at stake here. That doesn't even include economic development.
Over 200 kilometers southwest of Big Trout Lake is another community relying on diesel. Barry Strachan is manager of public works for a tribal council that encompasses 4 of these communities living off the grid.
We're at the airport. This is where the North Spirit Lake diesel generating station is located. Over my shoulder is the storage facility required to produce power in this community for 1 year. It's roughly 800,000 liters of fuel stored behind us. So that's 26 tanker truck loads of fuel that had to come over the ice road 300 kilometers from Red Lake to reach this site. I'm not sure what the the carbon footprint of this plant is. It's huge. This is the dirtiest way by far to make power that I'm aware of, that I've ever seen.
Dirty power that's also prohibitively expensive.
$1 million a year is just a straight cash outlay, leaving this community to go to some petroleum company to purchase the fuel here. This community is often teetering on the verge of bankruptcy as a result of the reliance on this product behind me.
He says it's expensive and unreliable.
It fails at the most inopportune times. 2 years ago, we had a power outage for 10 days during the Christmas holiday.
Back at Big Trout Lake at their diesel storage facility, Jeffrey McKay, a band counselor, says it's not just unreliable, it's also maxed out.
We're not able to connect any more buildings, or we can't really build any new houses. Even if we build them, we can't hook them up.
This inability to build new homes means that many are condemned to live in conditions that most of us would find unacceptable, including Jeff's own sister, Edna.
And the living conditions are so poor. This is how the people are packed into small rooms when there's overcrowding. It's almost every house has that problem in this community. This one, it should be condemned already. But still, we don't have a choice. People have to live in these kind of conditions because we don't have enough homes in the community.
Outside Edna's home, the problem comes into stark focus.
That building there, it was supposed to be a restaurant. And they can't hook it up because there's not enough power. So it's just been standing there maybe a year and a half already. So that's just how it is. Even if we put up new buildings, we can't hook them up.
That's the reality of life in these northern communities, and why they're so desperate for a change that will allow them to take charge of their future.
It can't happen soon enough. There is a sense of urgency. You know, best case scenario, we're looking at probably 10 years before the grid will get to this community. But it's a light at the end of the tunnel versus, staying reliant on this equipment, staying reliant on government to fund upgrades to the system. Yeah, it's going to be a huge impact for North Spirit Lake once the grid gets here.
I think a lot of communities are putting a lot of faith and a lot of confidence into Wataynikaneyap Power.
Wataynikaneyap, I feel, will pave a way and change the landscape of how we do business with everyone in Ontario and Canada. Our communities want to invest into business economic opportunities. They want to build opportunities for the younger generation coming up. So it's a bigger vision than just bringing a line into the communities.
The federal government has got to come to the table. They've got to help us put these funding frameworks in place. The provincial government's ready. I believe the federal government's ready. We'll see it. The proof will be in the pudding.
There may be a lot of hurdles still to cross, but for John Cutfeet, there's real momentum for this project and real hope for the future.
I think there's a different expectation now in terms of our people having a say in what happens in the territory. I mean, there is a choice, right? And that's the thing that we fought for, is to have that choice, and more power to the people.